After Dad went to prison, my mom kept doing that line of work for a few more months. Only when our family was completely broke did she switch to selling things online. And because of that, delivering sweet potatoes to customers, joining gambling circles again, she ended up arrested in another case. It was through that case that I realized Mom's life had been much more complicated than I thought. Not just Dad and my father passing through it. After Dad, she got involved with a truck driver who used to drive the north-south route. He had a child from his previous marriage, already divorced, and he often helped Mom with chores and moving things back to our hometown. He was much younger than her and very fond of little Coon. Mom's sworn sister said he was taking advantage of her feelings, but I didn't know what to say. I'd met him a few times, but after Mom was detained for gambling, I started seeing him more often. He really tried to help, running around to find ways to get Mom released. But when Mom finally got out, somehow they had a huge fight. Mom said that while she was gone, he had been texting another woman and even posted her photos on Facebook. She felt so disappointed that she kicked him out of the house. His mother used to call Mom often, asking how she was doing, and she truly wanted her son to marry Mom. But my mom was stubborn. Once she broke up with someone, there was no going back. Sometimes, I felt like her love life was a tangled mess. I got exhausted, listening to her reasons and explanations. Talking to her made me realize all my knowledge about communication was useless. Later, Mom told me about another man, someone she met online. He lived in Huabing, but they got along surprisingly well. He even took a bus all the way south just to live with her. Even when he found out Mom might have to serve time again, he didn't back away. Mom was haunted by something a fortune teller once told her. "You'll end your life alone." She would repeat it over and over. "My fate is loneliness. Love never works out for me." But every time a new man came along, she'd tell me, "He's kind. He truly loves me, and I love him too." With the man from Huabing, Mom once asked me, "Do you think I should open my heart again?" What could I possibly say? I couldn't tell her yes or no. I just wanted her to be happy, to truly live for herself, not for anyone else. Still, I was afraid she might trust the wrong person. I didn't know anything about this man she spoke of. Honestly, I didn't have any bad feelings toward him. In fact, I was grateful. Grateful that he brought little Coon from the south to our home in Guyane, that he bathed him, cooked for him, stood by my mom during her trial, and helped her pack things when I couldn't be there. But that's where it stopped. Gratitude. I couldn't feel comfortable with him, no matter how much Mom asked me to. I felt uneasy when he texted me, asking for money to buy things for Coon, or when he sent me a bank account number and told me to transfer money to keep the SIM active. I knew he probably meant no harm, that he was just following Mom's requests. But still, I couldn't understand. Why did I have to be part of all those relationships in her life? In the days before Mom was taken away, I kept getting calls, dozens of them every day, from her so-called sworn brothers and sworn sisters. Every one of them called themselves Uncle when talking to me. Some told me to write my name down on the visitor list. Some said, "When the pandemic's over, call me, and I'll drive you to visit your mom." Some said they'd already driven her to the detention center. And some tried to comfort me. I was in that camp just last year. "I know the guards. I can send things to your mom for you." There were so many of them. Too many. I wanted to believe they were just being kind, but I couldn't think of any of them as truly decent men. Before she left, Mom told me, "If any of them ask for money, just say you don't have any, okay?" It sounded honest in her own way, but after so many men had passed through her life, I was tired of feeling confused. I didn't want to feel that way anymore. A few days before my birthday, Mom borrowed someone's phone to call me. She wished me happy birthday, asked how Coon was doing with school, and told me to message one of her uncles to buy her some fruit. Sometimes I think, Maybe being in prison isn't the worst thing for her. At least she's safe from the pandemic, and maybe it gives her time to really think about her life. The night before she left, she called me. We talked for a long time. She said, "All I want now is a normal life. I've spent too long chasing money, chasing men, chasing everything." Mom had been through so much already. I just hoped, for once, she truly meant what she said. I kept telling her, "Then just throw that SIM card away, Mom. Start over. Live quietly for once." But she stayed silent. And I didn't know what she was thinking anymore. Honestly, I didn't even want to know. In the past, no matter what my father's family said about my mom, I never took it to heart. I always told myself she must have her own struggles, her own pain, and they have their own anger too. Whenever someone asked if I blamed her, if I hated her, I always shook my head confidently. Whatever she did, whoever she was with, however she lived, it was fine. As long as she was happy, healthy, and could take care of herself, that was enough for me. Since I was little, I knew my mom was a well-known trader, a true hustler. She sold everything: groceries, fruit, meat, phones, SIM cards. She ran lottery numbers, lent money, even gambled. If something could be traded, she'd find a way to trade it. The people she surrounded herself with were all kinds, from small-time gangsters to poor laborers. Some were her business partners, some her debtors, some her creditors. Mom was the oldest sibling, and she raised her 3 younger brothers and sisters on her own. Even after they grew up, she was still the one arranging their jobs, their weddings, their kids. And after she got married, every problem from her side of the family still ended up on her shoulders. My father was an addict, in and out of prison again and again. The money for lawyers, prison visits, even to keep him from causing trouble, all of it came from Mom. She also cared for my grandparents and helped her in-laws financially. Honestly, if she hadn't thrown herself into every kind of work she could find, how would she have managed to keep everyone afloat? That's why I never felt ashamed of her. Not once. When I was in 2nd grade, I used to help her write down lottery numbers. She told me they were phone numbers, but of course I knew better. Like many parents, she'd always say, "When you're older, when life gets easier, I'll tell you everything so you'll understand me." But life never got easier. One mistake always led to another. From the start, she was wrong to think she could fix everything alone, that she could save the family with just her effort and love. She believed that if she worked hard enough, loved my father enough, he would quit drugs and become a better man. But no, her patience only made him take her for granted. Before my father's 3rd prison sentence, I once saw him chasing her around the house with a belt. Mom was running, shouting back, and his face was red with rage. Everyone in the neighborhood knew he was demanding money for drugs, and that Mom, frustrated from trying to collect her own debts, had yelled at him first. Still, I never felt embarrassed. After she married, she took care of my father's entire family: food, clothes, money. Even my uncles borrowed from her to pay for medical treatment or business ventures. She thought, if I'm good to them, they'll be good to me. But they weren't. They took the loans but never paid them back. Once, when one of my uncles lost money during a visit, he didn't suspect anyone but her. Mom was heartbroken. Even now she still asks, why do I treat everyone so well, and they still hurt me like this? The friends and relatives she helped all disappeared when she was in trouble. I don't even know what to say to that. I just think, Mom is too trusting, too soft-hearted, and her desire to give is too big. The more she gives, the less people appreciate it. Every time I think about her question, I remember a story. There was once an old man with a big bag of candy. Every day he gave some to a little boy, and the boy adored him. Then one day the candy ran out. The boy came, found nothing left, and instead of understanding, he scolded the old man and walked away. That's how my mom is. When she had plenty, she gave too much. Watching her, I built a rule for myself. No matter how much I love someone, I will never give them all of me. Sometimes I hate myself for thinking that way, for being so cautious. But after watching my mom's life, I just can't do it any other way. When I started therapy, I realized that I was what they call a parentified child, a kid who's forced by circumstances to become the parent of their own parents. I had always treated Dad like a child, and saw Mom as my equal. That's what they call role confusion. In both cases, the balance in our family was off. None of us were playing the roles we were supposed to. I used to ask myself, why doesn't Mom understand me? Why did she treat me that way? And in that very moment, all the anger I had buried for years finally broke loose. Before that, I had carried the heavy weight of being the good daughter, the one who should never resent her parents. So I pushed everything down, hid every bruise inside. But pain isn't a crumpled piece of paper you can shove under the table and pretend it's gone. Out loud, I said I didn't need anything from her. I said I only wished for her to be happy, that I just wanted to be someone she could lean on, asking for nothing but her peace of mind. Yet the child inside me needed her desperately. I always needed my mother, just like Choi Taek in Reply 1988, who missed his mom every second of the day. The connection between us was cut off too suddenly. Without her warmth, I built walls, learning to play the mother role for myself throughout my entire childhood. It took me years, therapy sessions, and a lot of money to finally accept that she's a part of me, an inseparable, undeniable part. I've learned that healing begins the moment you can finally speak your pain. When I wrote Going to Prison and Other Stories, I cried for the last time over Dad. It felt like releasing all the hurt tied to him. After that, I found peace. I could finally talk about him without bitterness. Writing Spending Money Like a Cheapo also helped me stop being so cheap myself. But every time I tried to write about Mom, I couldn't. I've meditated, gone to therapy, seen doctors, yet the knot inside me about her stayed stuck. Only when I started writing this did I begin to realize it was easier to heal from Dad because, no matter what, he never abandoned me. Even in prison, he wrote letters home. In his eyes, I was his wonderful daughter, the reason he kept living. Every time he said, "You're all I have," I knew he meant it. Dad was always afraid of losing me, always tried to make it up to me whenever he was sober. But Mom wasn't like that. She always assumed I'd be fine on my own. She did everything with the reasoning, if it weren't for you, I only live for you. I did this because of you. Yet I never felt any of it. The pain she left in me was the pain of abandonment. The way she left so suddenly. The way she ignored my pleading. The way she dismissed my feelings because you're the sensible one. It all tore me apart. Part of me wanted to hold her. Part of me was terrified she'd leave again. For a child, the scariest thing isn't hunger. It's being starved of love from your own parents. I used to think, I don't care if Mom cheats, loses money, yells, or hits me. Just don't leave me. Don't ignore me. I was terrified of the pitying look she'd give me. Absolutely terrified. I'm in my 20s now, but the 9-year-old in me still feels like Mom left just yesterday. Even now, anger still bubbles up when I remember how, in the days before she went to prison, she only told me to take care of my little brother, never once asking how I felt, what I thought, or what would happen to me. It took everything in me to finally admit, I was so angry at you, Mom. Once, during a psychology class, my teacher asked, when you close your eyes, can you feel your mother's embrace? If yes, you were a loved child. If not, you're still starving for affection. I closed my eyes, and Mom felt so far away. I felt cold, small, and alone. And after that question, I collapsed onto my bed, curled up like a baby in a womb, silently screaming in my head, "Mom, I miss you. I want you to hold me, kiss my hair, my forehead, my neck, my shoulders. I want you to call me sweetie again. You can even scold me, hit me if you must. Just be there, please." Honestly, the journey to truly understand my mother has been exhausting. Once I finally allowed myself to be angry at her, to release all that pent-up pain, I entered a new stage of therapy. In this phase, my therapist asked me to explore my mother's own childhood, her life, and how those things shaped me. She said, "You've accepted that your mother didn't understand you, and you've already felt the anger from that. Now ask yourself, but what do you understand about her? Can you make sense of why she became who she is?" I think now I can finally answer that question. My boyfriend's mother knows everything about my family. She once told me, "I love you, but I'm sorry. I just can't not be angry at your mom." And I get that. I used to feel the same way. For years, my anger toward mom was buried under layers of numbness. Emotion turned into armor. But when I started to see my mother not as my mother, but as a person, a young woman, a girl who once had her own dreams, I realized she deserved more compassion than blame. When I stopped seeing her as a parent and started seeing her as a human being, I found the courage to learn about the stories I've only hinted at before, the ones I had to piece together from what others told me. I learned that my mother grew up with very little affection from my grandmother. Because Grandma was busy running her business, she left Mom in the care of my great-grandmother. Later, when Grandma had more children, she openly played favorites. To her, Mom was the eldest, the one responsible for taking care of her siblings, for helping the family. Grandma never let her finish high school. She had to work to support the others. By second grade, Mom was already following Grandma to the market to help sell goods. Even though she was a bright student, she had to drop out because the family was too poor. Grandma was strict and cold. People said no one in town could outdo her when it came to scolding or sarcasm. When Mom married Dad, Grandma didn't even bother to hold a wedding. On the day Dad's family came to take her away, Grandma locked the front door. Mom had to climb out of the window to get married. When Mom gave birth to me, Grandma didn't skip a single morning at the market to visit. She stopped by once at noon, took a quick look at me, and that was it. She never came again. Grandma on Dad's side told me that my aunts tried to visit Mom and help with laundry or bring gifts, but they got yelled at by my maternal grandmother. She was furious that Mom had chosen a man addicted to drugs, angry that an early marriage meant Mom could no longer help the family. Back then, every bit of gold or money Mom earned was taken by Grandma. That's why, even after everything that happened later in life, Mom would still say, "I love your paternal grandmother more than my own mother." Lacking her mother's affection, my mom also suffered deep emotional turmoil from her father. My grandfather was a notorious womanizer. Even in his youth, he would bring women home and sleep with them under the same roof. My grandmother protested, but he never cared. The list of his mistresses was endless, and only my mother and her younger sister knew the full story. When he turned 70, he inherited a piece of land worth billions of dong from my great-grandfather. Under the influence of a long-time mistress, he filed for divorce so he could claim everything for himself. The shared assets were divided in half. He moved back to his hometown with that woman. Rumor has it, they even had a child together. When the divorce happened, I was the one dragged into the family meeting to type up the paperwork. As I was typing out the clauses he dictated, I couldn't stop wondering, how did Grandma manage to live with him for so long? Outwardly, my grandfather was charming, polite, articulate, and fond of moral preaching. He told me not to judge him, not to be angry. He said he'd endured long enough, and now he deserved to live for his own happiness. I had no words. His new house was near my high school. Back when he and Grandma were still technically married, I once caught him eating pho with another woman. He simply nodded hello, then went back to his meal, each of us pretending the other didn't exist. I think my mother was also a child forced into the wrong role. burdened with too many responsibilities, witnessing too much, too soon. Like me, she was a child who felt abandoned. Someone once said, "Tell me about your childhood, and I'll tell you who you are." People like my mother and me tend to grow up into compulsive caregivers, always taking care of others, always sacrificing ourselves. I chose to care for my dad, my grandmother, my mom, and my little brother. Mom chose to care for her friends, her husbands, and everyone around her. We are both drawn to people who can't manage their own lives, trapped in relationships where we aren't truly respected. We take on the role of caretaker to feel worthy of love, because deep down, both she and I carry a limiting belief that protecting others is the only way to be loved. The only difference between us is that I've had the privilege and the chance to name that pattern. She never did. In the past, I was just like her. Many people wanted to get to know me, but like Mom, I rejected the kind, stable ones, the ones who encouraged me, and instead was drawn to those who couldn't even take care of themselves. Most of the people I fell for were unprepared for life, without any sense of direction. I chose them because, in those relationships, I could play the nurturing role, the one who comforts, supports, and fixes. Even my current boyfriend carries shades of both my parents. After I worked through my issues with Dad, I stopped seeing his traits in him, but that's when my mother's recklessness, her wild impulsiveness, began to surface in him instead. Maybe the people we meet really are mirrors, reflections of something still unresolved within ourselves. As I went through the stages of unpacking my issues with my mom, I began to understand her more, to see what had shaped her, and to recognize the flow of pain she had unconsciously passed on to me. In truth, receiving love is a lot like absorbing calories. Some people just don't have the capacity to take it in, no matter how much they're given. Sometimes love is offered in a form that the receiver simply can't accept. Now, I can faintly feel my mother's love, but the sense of not being good enough to be loved by her still lingers deep inside me. When I was little, she took such good care of me. Honestly, it's those early years, overflowing with the love of both my dad and my mom, that gave me the foundation and trust to walk this path. Many of my clients face similar stories. Their parents did love them, but in ways they couldn't recognize or receive. As for me, I understand now that my mother's love was distorted because she herself was never loved properly. If she had never been loved as a daughter, how could she possibly love her own daughter in the way that she needed? My mother couldn't give what she had never received, never experienced, and never learned. When I was still in the role of a child, I often resented her for not understanding me. But over time, I began to ask myself, have I really tried to understand her? Once I did, I began to see the roots of everything I had gone through and slowly started to cut away what no longer served me. I know this journey is still ongoing, but I'm deeply grateful to myself for having come this far. As I write these words, I only wish that one day, in a quiet moment with my eyes closed, I can feel her warmth wrapping around me. Soft, tender, and full of peace.